Welcome to working with Photoshop, color lookup and gradient mapping, and you can have as many of these as you want and combine them anyway. We're going to start with something like this for the mapping. In fact, right all the way to something even more simple, which is just shaping it to begin with. Work your shapes out, color them up with some brushes, or tone them up with some brushes achromatically, and then chuck some color in there and change it around as you see fit when you're doing quick concept art. So let me just go through and just show you what this is. So I'm going to turn a few of these off. So it's just a white background. We've got our shape we're going to work, and we've got the shadow. I might just bring the shadow beneath the circle, seeing it's a shadow, and there's just the tone, etc. Now what I want to do is to tone it up first. So I'm not going to do a tutorial on brushes. Essentially, all we need to do is brush this up, but we want to lock the pixels. So circle here, just come up, lock pixels. You can choose any brush you want. We need to get the color. So if I click on color here, anything that's gray, remember we're working with achromatic grays, because we'll tone it up later, is probably about that will do, just to give it a bit of source here. I can use any one of my brushes, so you can choose any of the brushes. If you click on the brush tool just here, and let me see, so we'll go along over here and we'll click on brushes, and you've got all sorts of things apart from bringing them in. Of course, you can go through here and you can clear the brushes, you can create new brush presets, all sorts of things, and we can sort of bring them in as well. But let's just get in there and do something really simple. I've just got a simple graphic like so. We can change the size and shape and everything, of course, and even spacing, but the pixels are locked. As you can see there, that's locked, that layer selected, and I'm just going to start toning it up like so. So I'm just doing a base there. Now you can use any brushes you like, of course, but I'm just keeping this really simple. I'm going to go through and just make it a bit darker, go OK, and let's see, I might even make it a bit small by using my bracket keys, and just start getting some tone in here and picking it up. I'm not worrying about this too much, just keeping it really, really simple. Maybe just a bit bigger. And then I'm just going to go through and give it a highlight, say, right at the top there. And there's my highlight as I'm bringing that up. So, of course, I've spent no time doing this, so it'll take time to put it together, but this is not about doing brushes, it's about doing the effects we want. So let me just show you how you actually start doing that. So I'm going to go through to a finished brush set. So let's go back to my tone here, which is right through to there. Here's the end. Here's where we go to next. And what you see is all these different layers. We want to combine them all, but we don't want to stuff out anything. So if I just click on that, what's that? That's the outline. Make sure you name them, because that's certainly going to make things a lot easier. You don't need that many, but if you're going to have a lot, name them all. But we need to concertina them all into one. So the easiest way to do that is I'm just going to come down to my move tool here, just to stay away from the brushes for now. And I'm not going to worry about the background. I'm just going to shift select all of these. Then I'm going to go Command J. Okay, so just Command J, and suddenly that's made a copy of everything. Then if I bring that in there, I just want to go through, and with all those layers selected, just want to merge the layers. I'll bring that back down so we can see it. So I've got a copy, and I'll just leave it as a copy so we can see what it is. So name it whatever you want. I'm just going to turn everything off except for that, just that background, and make sure this is selected. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a gradient map. So to do a gradient map, all we do is you click down here and you can choose a gradient map at the bottom. Of course, you can also come up here, which is easier for you to see it on the screen here. So if you just come down here, and if we basically just want to do something with the layer styles, or the effects here, which is just going to be the adjustment layer. So I'm in layer, and if we just come down here under this effects that you want to do, which will just be new adjustment layer, which is adjustment, the keyword, you're just going to see gradient map, and I'll click on that. Okay, so this is selected. I'm just going to go OK, and here is a gradient map coming up the top, and here's the gradient. And you're thinking to yourself, well, that didn't work too good. Look at the image, you can hardly see it. Now you're going to have a whole lot of presets here, and I even got some down the bottom here. But what I want to do, in fact, I can click on these, or I can just go back to where I was and just use this to start off with Scratch. So if I click on that, secret is having dark on one side. So I click there, come down to the color, and I'm going to give it something really dark. See how that's coming up? Let's give it some extra tone to really pick it up. Okay, that's great. And now I'm going to just give it a bit more tone in the middle and just make this a bit lighter so it's picking up tone there. That's great. And maybe just here I'm going to give something a little bit warmer. Just give it a bit of life, but it's just getting the right tones, so it's just going to work. Now I haven't spent a lot of time in doing that, but as you can see, you can grab things along and really get it as you see fit. And that's not looking too bad, so I'm just going to go OK. And look at this, it's got a gradient map on the top of it. Now we can do a whole lot of gradient maps, and we can mask things out as well. So just in the mask area, I'm just going to come back, make sure it's black and white by default. I'm just going to go to my brush tool up here, so just back into the brush tool just there, and I'm going to get out of that and just go back to normal soft round brush, and see what I'm doing. I'm just erasing that, and it's been erased just in here. Should I not want that, for example? Now I can do another gradient map and mask it any other way, so I can play colors, backwards and forwards, etc. So this is up to you to do as many as you'd like, but what I want to do is just to jump straight to the key one here, which is another adjustment layer. So with this adjustment layer here, I can click down here again, and just out of view, in fact, no, it's in view, it's color lookup. So if you don't see it here, you can go back up to the layers at the top, but I'm going to go color lookup, and let's just click on that. Okay. So with the color lookup, I'm going to click on this color just here, and I'm going to come up to this load 3D LUT, and there's also the different files here. Let's see, late sunset, bring that in there. Now that's looking pretty good. Of course, you can change these at any stage. In fact, even with your density and tone, your layer masks, you can bring things in, select the mask and play around with it, as with other more intricate masking. I'm not going to go into the detail of that. In fact, you can even simply just play with your opacity and things like that. But what I might do is just give that a little bit of a mask around the side there. So this time I'm going to do a little bit differently. I'm going to click on the masking, and still very, very dark there. I'm just going to increase it just a tad, and now I'm just sort of erasing just around there just to give it a bit more glow as well. And if I didn't like this color within the color here, I can come back in there or do another one and mask it quite differently. It's really up to how you play with this. In fact, I might just try something like soft warming look, just for example. Not a lot of difference. And let's say futuristic bleak, see what that's looking. I definitely prefer the sunset, but you can actually go through and change them to whatever it is that you want to do. I'll just go to the fall colors there. But the one that I prefer the most for this one is definitely that one. And of course I can erase it. If I don't like the razor, I can just come back in there. Just make sure when you are erasing it, you just go to the dark area there, but you can actually just erase that or take it back by just getting on this edge here when you select it, and we can basically erase it out again, just like so, etc. Not a great job, but just want to show you how you do that. In fact, I might just go through and with this brush and make it nice and soft. In fact, maybe even a texture feel, and just bring it in there and bring that right up just to get a bit more effects in the edge of it. So anyway, that's just to give you an idea of how you put this together. So incredibly quick, and you can change it and add to it as much as you like, and all we're actually working with is a grayscale image. And we of course haven't damaged any of our original files should we need to use it again. So just coming back to the original one I had here, a few colors put in there, and that's an example of working with gradient maps and color lookup just on a grayscale image. So thanks for watching.